everyone, Kelly Dean Allen here with you again. Today we're going to have a look at how to play the post-grunge classic from 1994, Everything Zen by British band Bush, or Bush X as they were known at the time here in Canada because of copyright issues with their name. Now, Bush were a band that pulled off that magical feat of making it quite big in America and Canada for that matter, while being pretty much ignored in their home country of England. Likely owing to the fact that grunge, post-grunge just didn't hit as hard in England as it did in the US, where it of course originated. The Brits being overwhelmingly obsessed with the whole Britpop movement in the mid to late 90s rather than the heavier, grungier sounds of bands like Bush and the like. Regardless, this was the track that first broke the band in North America, and one that I've just been a little bit obsessed with over the past week or so. So let's have a look at how it's played, shall we? We are in standard tuning for this tutorial, and this one goes a little something like this. Let that ring for about 8 bars, and then we drop into the main riff. That's pretty much the main riff to this one. We're starting with an E power chord. We're going to hit that twice, and then we're going to drop onto the 3rd fret of the low E, a little micro bend, and then back to the E power chord. Right, and at the very beginning of the track, you're going to let that ring for like 7 or 8 bars, right? And then we drop into the main riff proper, which we're going to repeat 4 times, starting it the same way. But then you're going to finish with a little up-down of that E power chord before dropping into a 2-finger D power chord that you're going to hit twice, and then move it off to a C power chord that you're going to hit 3 times. Repeat. E, E, G, E, D, C. And then flatly off to an E power chord at the start of the first verse, and you just let that ring, and the first verse is over just bass and drums. Now there's a second rhythm guitar buried in the mix a little bit, playing octaves, so playing basically the same riff, but playing octaves instead of power chords, going from D off to C, right? 5 of the A and then 7 of the G. And when we move off to C, we're on 3 and 5 of the A and the G, right? And every second time, they're up here on the 10 of the A and the 12 of the G, and then just backing it up 1 spot to 9 and 11. Kind of like that. That is a secondary rhythm guitar, a little bit buried in the mix underneath the main rhythm guitar, right? That's the main guitar, and the other one's playing octaves. Kind of like that, right? And there's also this crazy ass slide solo over top of all that, which is kind of beyond the scope of this tutorial. We're not going to get into that. There's like 3 crazy ass slide solos in this one that we're just going to kind of gloss over here. So like I said, we finish the main riff after repeating it 4 times with the crazy ass slide solo over top. We finish with an E power chord. We're just going to let it ring for about 8 bars while the first half of the first verse, and then just before the guitars kick in with the main riff again for the second half of the verse, we're just going to grab a little double stop or a little triad here on the 12s, D, G, and B, and then slide out of it right into the main riff for 4 repeats to finish up the verse. Into the chorus. So we're going to repeat that chorus riff 3 times for the first chorus. A power chord, 2-finger power chord here at the 5th fret position. We're going to hit that like 3 times, back it up to G very quickly, and then off to F, and then hang in that F. Kind of like that, right? A, G, F. Into this. So we're back in this E power chord, dropping onto that third fret of the low E 6 times. The final 3 times we're going to double time it. Kind of like that, right? A little waggle when you drop onto that third fret. Repeat. Last time. Main riff. Twice. And then back to E for the second verse that you just let ring. And again, another crazy ass little slide section there over top of that. And then leading into the second half of the second verse, he grabs this note twice, this B flat note here on the third fret of the G, bam, bam, right? And then drops back into the main riff for 4 repeats for the second half of the second verse. Right, while the other guitar underneath is playing this. Right into the chorus, A to G to F. Repeat 4 times. Right, and the fourth and final time, we're going to hang in this E and we're going to do this leading into the bridge. Right, just that E power chord dropping onto that third fret like 4 times, and then the final time you go off to E, you're going to hit that E and choke it off. Bottom. 4 times. Final time. Double time that, right? And then we're into the bridge. All power chords, right? So we're going from D off to B flat at the first fret position, up to G, down to C. And repeat, but this time hang in the G, and repeat. And the final time, G, B flat, G, B flat. You go back and forth from G to B flat twice. So that's the bridge. D, B flat, G, C, D, B flat, G, hanging it. D, B flat, G, C, D, B flat, G, B flat, G, B flat. Right, and that leads into the main slide solo, and the rhythm underneath the main slide solo is this. And that leads into the section where it's just all quiet in the middle of the track, where he's saying, there's no sex in your violence, over and over and over again. So the rhythm underneath the main slide solo, E off to D off to C, D, C, right? The first and fourth time we play through this progression, that's what we're going to play. E off to D off to C. And the second and third time we're going to do this. Just playing octaves. E, starting in E on the 7 and the 9 of the A and the G. We're going to move it up 2 spots to 9 and 11, then move it up to 10 and 12, and then move it up to 12 and 14, and repeat twice. And then back to E to D to C. And then finally off to a lightly strummed E power chord that you're just going to let ring. So that's the rhythm underneath the slide solo. E, D, C, octaves. Again. Back to E, D, C, quiet this section. There's no sex in your violence, over and over again, right? And we're going to ride this B note here on the 9th fret of the D string, palm muted, right? And then he plays this little octave riff. So we're on the 9/11, we're going to move it up one spot. We're just going to pick the first one, right? And we're going to slide it up one spot, slide it back to 9/11, slide it back to 7 and 9, back to 5 and 7, back to 3 and 5, and then back to 2 and 4. Kind of like that, right? I don't have enough gain for this, but... And then leading back into the final chorus, it's kind of riding on this D note here for a bit, palm muted, nice and quiet, right? And then moves it on to the 9 of the G. And then a big D off to C, right into the final chorus. 4 times. And then there's a little break, octaves. Right there, everything kind of stops and it's just guitar on the 12 of the A, 14 of the G, right, like 6 or 7 times. And then you back it up to F here on the 8-10, right? And then we drop into the outro where he's just singing I Don't Think So over and over again. We're just going from A to G to F and repeating. I don't think so. I don't think so. And right at the end, you just repeat that like 8 or 9 times, right? And finish with an A power chord. And there you go. That is how you play Everything Zen by Bush. Certainly hope you enjoyed that, found it helpful. If you did, please hit that like button right down there. Drop me a subscribe if you haven't done that already, as that would be very kind. Hope you're well out there in your little guitar corner of the world, wherever that may find you, and we will see you next time. Cheers.